The Nintendo Entertainment System.
Unus Annus, Unus Annus.
Time. Time is a constant in life, ticking away, ever present. We all have a timer above our heads, counting down the days, the hours, and the minutes until we're gone forever. It's an unstoppable beast that can never be tamed. It's the fact of life. But how much do you really think about that? Acknowledge it. Confront it. There was a channel here on this very platform that did just that. Because, just like you or I, it had a lifespan. 365 days to be exact. This channel would upload a new and original video idea every single day for an entire year. And when that clock hit 0, it was all going to be deleted. And all that would remain is the memory. One of the greatest experimental projects in YouTube history. This channel was Unus Annus, created on November 13th of 2019 by Mark Fishbach and Ethan Nestor, better known by their YouTube channels, Markiplier and Crank Gameplays respectively. The two had collaborated in the past, but not to a scale such as this. Both being experienced content creators focused on gaming, they wanted to produce something that was truly different from their usual work and unique. Something that wasn't simply just another gaming channel. And so, the idea of Unus Annus was born. Something special. The title meaning 1 year in Latin. But I don't think they knew how special Unus Annus would become over the course of that year. The basic premise of Unus Annus was that after a year had passed and a new video was released every single day, the channel would then be completely purged from the internet. The videos, the merchandise, and everything else included, all of it would be erased forever, with no way to bring it back or continue it. In fact, they actively told people that if they did try to re-upload or archive any of Unus Annus, they would actually take them down. No matter how big the channel got or how much pushback they got from the audience, they were all in on this idea. But why? Why go through all of this trouble to make a very successful YouTube channel just to delete it a year later? Well, I think to fully understand Unus Annus, all you really have to do is look at the theme of the channel. The logo, an hourglass with 2 skulls sitting inside of it. The general black and white colour scheme seen throughout the channel. And, most importantly, the recurring phrase that both of them said, Memento Mori, meaning remember death in Latin. Every single video that they made also began and ended with a countdown clock, showing exactly how much time was left until the deletion of the channel. Even the videos themselves, as ridiculous as a lot of them were, had a theme of death in the title, the thumbnail, or just the premise of the video. Like for example, buying a coffin, or ghost hunting. I think Mark put it best when he said,
"It'll make sense when it ends."
For lack of a better term, Unus Annus was an art project, the goal being to simulate feelings of loss, grief, and depression that come from the death of a loved one. Now, Unus Annus, of course, is not a real person, but being a fan of them and watching the daily uploads they created, getting attached to that channel, only for it to all just suddenly disappear with no way of watching it anymore. Well, I can confirm that once that goal was met, I think all of us finally did understand Unus Annus when it ended. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience that if you missed it, you could never be a part of it again. It showed the fleetingness of life, and it inspired people to make the most of the life that they have. Unfortunately for us, we can't see the timer above our heads. We have no idea how much time we have left. And so, we should do whatever we can to enjoy ourselves and make the most of whatever time we have. The first video uploaded by Unus Annus was bizarre and somewhat menacing, depicting Ethan in a black suit and Mark in a white suit with a spiral background. They talked about how this channel would expire, and it laid the groundwork for what was to come in an effective and efficient, albeit slightly ominous, pitch of the channel to its viewers. The channel had little to no marketing or advertising on each creator's main channel besides one video. However, it would still reach #1 on YouTube's trending page. The countdown began, and they were off to a great start. But still, even after the initial video released, nobody really knew what Unus Annus was. Was it an ARG, a show, a social experiment? The first real video uploaded by them the next day, however, answered those questions, and it showed us exactly what kind of content that they would be creating over the next year. Cooking with sex toys. Yeah, cooking with sex toys. So, despite the stoic and dark intro to the channel, relying on heavy themes of death and time, the first video was about them using various sex toys as cooking utensils in order to make meals, culminating with an actual postman walking in and seeing Mark gagged and being fed breakfast with a sex paddle by a catboy Ethan. This is still one of my favourite moments of the entire channel, by the way. I just want to throw that in there. That's not even in the script, I just want to say that. It's a great moment. Needless to say, this immediately threw everyone through a loop as to what this channel actually was, and it shifted the tone dramatically. I think this contrast did add to the overall feeling of the channel as well, and more of the premise of what we were all watching was later explained in another video. So, it turns out that because this channel would be deleted in a year, they very quickly realized that they didn't need to worry about demonetization, age restrictions, or backlash from YouTube, nor about building a brand or an empire of any kind. And so they pushed the boundaries of what can be created on YouTube. The videos themselves were hilarious and were a literal mixed bag of the most random shit that you can imagine. It felt like watching two guys grow their friendship through doing the most random and chaotic videos imaginable. In many ways, it actually reminded me of Cow Chop, if anyone knows that channel too, before it died. The videos were incredibly entertaining, they were funny, they were bizarre, they were creative, and most of them were not something that you would typically see on YouTube in the modern day, causing most people, including myself, to absolutely fall in love with the channel and always be excited for what was possibly coming the next day. From dunking Oreos in anything but milk to doing a sauna using their piss instead of water, you really never knew what you were going to get from this channel. And the experimental nature of it really shined through with bits or in-jokes that would go on for an entire year.
Let's get cooking!
Let's get cooking.
See? Just a little music there.
Well, let's get playing. Let's dive right in. Let's get thinking. Let's get brainstorming.
Let's get listing.
Let's read.
Side note here, believe it or not, them doing weird stuff with their piss actually became a running gag throughout the entire channel's lifespan, beginning with them drinking it, which is incredible. They also ended up gifting their 1 million subscriber YouTube plaque to a fan, as well as featuring her in a video. The videos ranged massively in what they were actually about. Some were actually about them being taught a unique skill by a professional, like fire eating or Chinese archery. Others were really dumb things like trying to cook a turkey by slapping it, or recreating the pain of labor during childbirth. So these videos were pretty wild, and creatively the channel was completely Ethan, Mark, and his girlfriend Amy, who, by the way, honestly doesn't get enough credit for the work that she did for the channel, as it's constantly mentioned by both Mark and Ethan that Amy is actually the one who comes up with most of the ideas for the channel, as well as being behind the camera for most of the filming and being a character in her own right. I was personally familiar with Mark, as I've been watching him since 2013. However, Ethan was almost an entirely new face to me, and the channel actually introduced me to him too. And I'm very thankful for that. He is a great content creator, and his outwardly quick and silly humor worked really well to contrast with Mark's more straight man persona on camera.
I'm running, I'm sprinting. Look how fast. Oh, just on the tippy toes. Look at me go. How many laps can you do? Oh, he's going. Mark, you're saying this is what it means to go even farther beyond.
I've got 10 more months of this shit.
It was fantastic chemistry due to their often contrasting personalities, and it was a joy to watch this friendship grow over the course of the year. By February of 2020, they were making banger after banger of absolutely incredible content, with hundreds more ideas they had in the pipeline and just as many days to execute them. But something happened. Something big, something really, really big happened.
Now to growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus officially hitting the U.S. Here's what we know. A Washington state resident fell ill after returning from Wuhan, China, where the outbreak began. Officials now say more than 400 people have been sick.
When the pandemic hit and most of the world was forced into lockdown, it surprisingly didn't stop Unus Annus. And they still managed to make daily videos, albeit restricted by the fact that they had to do smaller scale stuff over video calls rather than in person. This lasted for almost 3 months of the channel's 12, from March all the way to June. However, the creativity was still there in what they were producing, and in many ways, I'm actually really glad that the channel existed during this period of history specifically. This channel's focus on mortality, making the most of what you have because you don't know when your life is going to end, just so happened to occur in the same time as a global pandemic, and I think it made the purpose of the channel more poignant in many ways. 2020 was a difficult year for all of us, and Unus Annus was there for us. And I think it's incredibly commendable that they actually managed to keep up their creative vision for the channel and release a video daily. The first video in lockdown came in late March of 2020, and it was a silly video of them not touching their faces for as long as possible, with them donating money to charity during the course of quarantine for any time they did touch their face on camera going forward as well. Some of the more unique videos made during this time include trying to find each other on Omegle, making their own wine with grapes, and reacting to fan-made memes. However, eventually in June, we finally got to see them reunite in person, and the hijinks continued with ridiculous video concepts and ideas. If it wasn't obvious already, Unus Annus did experiment with their videos, and so you never really knew what you were actually going to get from them. Some examples of this more experimental content include making a video that is literally just them trying to open a Starbucks cup that was screwed on seemingly very tight, a video that was completely unedited for no particular reason other than just the challenge of making it that way, or a video where they literally try to find a needle in a haystack. as well as the aforementioned infamous piss videos. Yeah, they kept making videos about piss for some reason. It was very entertaining though. As a small side tangent, they also made some incredible green screen templates for memes that I still have downloaded to this day and will cherish forever because I can make shitposts like this.
You don't want to be like this. This is disgusting. This is awful in every way. If I could kill it, I would. But I legally can't. But I've considered it.
Oh, no! Not you again! I've dealt with this 3 times this week already!
This is great. Everything about this says exactly what I am and who I am as a person. It's my defining trait. It's beautiful. Big, too.
During this time, they did not go out of their house too much to interact with others, as they did before the pandemic, but this is for understandable reasons. But they still did manage to create an entire 9-day mini-series during the lifespan of the channel, Camp Unus Annus. A set of videos of Mark and Ethan camping outside with them doing some activities and challenges based off of that premise. Eventually they could finally go back to learning a new activity, like the aerial hoop video where Mark actually manages to break his nose.
Listen here. Yes. In, yeah, and then come forwards. Push forwards. Not with your feet.
It's too late. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Are you okay?
Oh.
Did it hit your nose right where it hit it the other day?
Oh. Do I win?
For me, my personal favourite videos by them are actually not the silly ones. It's the ones where they talk candidly and openly about the channel, what they wanted from it, how they think it's going at the time, and how they want people to feel. One came when they sat in the dark outside, waiting for a meteor to fly across the sky. The 3, including Amy of course, talked about space, life, time, and it felt more like a podcast than it did a usual episode. Another came at the end of the camp mini-series. There was a video where they just simply skipped stones across a river, and they discuss whether they think that 2020 was a bad year to do Unus Annus. And it's honestly fascinating to hear these 2 creators talk out of their exaggerated on-screen personas about what this channel means to both of them and to their audience. However, all things must end. As the clock got closer to 0, the videos became a lot more melancholic and existential. After a wildly fun video of Ethan putting Mark through an entire Saw-like gauntlet in a spooky abandoned house, the next video was something entirely different. It was a short film set just after the ending of the last video, where Ethan and Mark try to reason and beg with an alternate version of themselves to keep the channel going. Ultimately, they accept their fate, and the final countdown to the end begins. One video, during the last few weeks, had the pair sitting down and being brutally honest with each other in a pretty raw conversation. And another had them flat out telling us all the different video ideas that they just simply never got a chance to do for one reason or another. Like I said, these more serious and honest videos were some of my favourites, being interspersed between these ridiculous and outlandish daily content that they would create. By the end of the channel's lifespan, they accumulated over 4.5 million subscribers and 800 million views total in their videos, with fans joking that it was more of a cult than a YouTube channel. The channel's impact was unquestionable, and it brought back a spark of creativity that I feel like YouTube has lost for quite some time. But the timer is forever ticking. Nothing could be done to stop it, and unfortunately, it was reaching the end.
Unus Annus, Unus Annus.
On Friday the 13th of November 2020, a 12-hour live stream began on the channel. counting down the entire final 12 hours. Mark, Ethan, and Amy rewatched some videos, looked at fan art, and generally reminisced about the time that they had. Ethan also got a tattoo live on stream too of the countdown at 0, and they showed some of the fans who got tattoos for Unus Annus as well. To give an example of just how big and rabid the fan base was at that time, I just want to mention that the site to buy merch literally crashed during the final live stream because too many people were trying to pick up the Unus Annus merch before it was gone forever. On Logan Paul's podcast, Mark actually said that it took 5 months for them to fully fulfill all of the orders that were made during that final live stream.
There was a time during the live stream where it ended where we had bought, our merch company had bought every single black hoodie in America. Every single one at that time. It took 5 months to fulfill every order from that live stream.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At this point, fans were completely diehard for the channel, myself included, and it was absolutely not a cult. I promise. It sounds like it was. I promise you it was not a cult. I promise it wasn't a cult. Mark, Ethan, and Amy had a vision, and they saw through it until the end. They could have easily watered down the message, went back on their decision to delete it, and made more money. But they didn't. As the counter slowly ticked away, getting closer to 0, it became clear that this was really gonna happen. Mark and Ethan sat with their laptop on the coffin, Amy in the middle of them, her fingers on the mouse. And so, after the year-long build-up and an entire 12-hour live stream, it finally came to a head and it was all paid off when, live on stream, the timer, which was omnipresent the entire time, hit 0, and the channel was deleted forever in front of over 1 million viewers. And just like that, it was gone. It was just gone. 1.6 million people watched that live stream, and they were all just suddenly met with a black screen of nothing. If you refresh, which I did, the live stream was suddenly no longer available. If you tried to go to their channel, you would be met with the channel and a simple, "This channel has no content," only for a few minutes later, a simple message when the channel was gone. "This channel does not exist." Mark and Ethan did upload some separate videos on their own channel where they just talked about how they felt, how difficult the process was, and what they thought about the reactions from the people. But other than that, and anniversary videos on each of their personal channels, yeah, it was gone forever, and it's still gone to this day. So, I'm adding this in post-edit because I just want to talk about the anniversary video, the second anniversary video, because it's a very unique idea. The first year was just 2 separate videos that they both uploaded on their main channel where they basically gave their condolences to Unus Annus. The second year, however, was different. It was 1 video uploaded to each of their channels, just like last year. However, it was 2 halves of a conversation. And so when you put those videos together, they make a single conversation between Ethan and Mark. And they say some really heavy stuff in that conversation. And I actually do recommend that you go and watch the entire thing because it is pretty hard. But this, I just want to put here my personal favorite line, my personal favorite quote that they say in this video, in this conversation. So yeah, back to the video.
Is if we were to do this every year, which who knows, maybe we will. If we were, there'll come a year, someday, where one of these chairs will be empty.
Mm-hmm.
And then both.
Of course, many fans were upset, with some even going into denial over it, believing that the clock will be reset and a second year will come, a Unus Annus, if you will. Which I feel is pretty ironic considering that we were all told from the very beginning exactly what was going to happen, yet so many people reacted in so many different ways, and it was fascinating to watch. People did try to re-upload the content, but Mark and Ethan did exactly what they said they would do. They unapologetically, and in my opinion deservingly, took down any and all re-uploads that they could. However, unfortunately, this is the internet, and there are uploads to this day of the channel that you can actually find pretty easily. I will always be against re-uploads of Unus Annus though. Not because I'm gatekeeping, but because watching these re-uploads simply goes against everything that Unus Annus was trying to be and supposed to represent. Even if you were to go and watch them all now, you wouldn't really have that same feeling of being there in the time during that 365-day countdown. It simply isn't the same as experiencing it for yourself. So, to me, re-uploading and re-watching anything that they made just feels gross. I even had to make this entire script based solely on memory and the wiki. It was so difficult to watch people let go of this channel after it was deleted, with many people lamenting that they didn't even get a chance to watch it or be part of it. The ones who were there, however, like me, felt the loss, the pain, the honest-to-God genuine grief. The channel managed to touch so many lives, and with 2020 being what it was the perfect year for Unus Annus, in my opinion. Mark and Ethan currently are both better than ever, and they're continuing their own content, being successful in their own different ways, even still collaborating together, although more rarely now. They're both fantastic creators, and I wish the both of them the best success possible, as they are equally deserving of that. And that's it. That's the story of Unus Annus. And so, speaking honestly here to wrap this video up, that moment in time of watching them live delete the channel and the devastating time after is something that I'll never forget being a part of. And it has genuinely had more of an impact on me than any other piece of media ever has. And that is saying something. It was just gone, with no way to bring it back. And it really did feel like the death of a loved one. The silence after the live stream was just suddenly cut. It was deafening. It was a channel that lived and died exactly when we were told it would. It completely served its purpose, teaching us all that you should never take any second of your life for granted. That nothing is forever, that memories are precious. Mark himself told us that it would all make sense when it was gone, and it did. Many people just could not let go of it, and you know, even now, 2 years later, I still think regularly about Unus Annus. I still miss it, and maybe after all this time, maybe this video is my way of finally letting go too. Memento Mori.